So the first thing I want to talk about this movie is the title, because it's a little confusing, I have to say. It doesn't quite make sense. To me, it sounds like something Yoda would say. So we are talking about...
Was
night. Let me just try that again. So we're talking about...
Was
night. Oh, God. One more time. So we are talking about Dark Was the Night, which originally was going to be called The Trees, which I don't know if it's any better, to be honest with you, but... Anyway, let's get past the title. One stars Kevin Durand, and he's an interesting leading man because he's normally used as kind of like a heavy, more or less a bad guy most of the time. The guy stands 6'6", so he's a big dude. He's normally kind of used in mainly film as kind of a bad guy or some kind of like military heavy, something along the lines of that. But here he's got a starring role. And I have to say, this movie has almost a Stephen King feel to it. And let me tell you, this is a pretty good movie. So the premise here is essentially we have a sleepy kind of woodland American town somewhere. And a few miles north of this town, there's a kind of a logging company that's disturbed some kind of ancient wildlife, which is now heading south because obviously its kind of habitat's getting destroyed, and right into the path of this small sleepy town where Kevin Durand's character is the sheriff. And obviously strange things start to happen, sightings of some strange creature occur, and eventually it leads to some deaths. And of course it's up to Kevin Durand and the rest of the townspeople to rally together to try and escape this kind of ancient terror. So, what is the movie like? Well, I have to say, I enjoyed this movie a lot. This is a good movie. In fact, these are sort of the movies that I hope to find when I'm doing these kind of reviews. Every so often I'll come across a little movie gem that I really thoroughly enjoy. Is it a perfect movie? No, it is not. There are a few issues with that which I'll come on to, but I won't go much more into the plot. Suffice to say that it's nothing terribly original, to be quite honest. You have seen this kind of this setup before. I mean, it's been compared to Jaws in a way, where you have this kind of creature terrorising a kind of small town. So that in a way, there isn't anything particularly new in regards to the plot. But what we do have in regards to plot, I think it's done very well. This movie is a slow burn. The first hour is pretty much all set up, introducing you to the characters, with a kind of few kind of like, what's going on here, something's out of place, the odd flash, here and there of maybe a creature, things like that basically. But it does a good job of building up this tension. I think when films do this sometimes, it can kind of come across as plodding. But this one I think avoids that, and it has a good level of kind of suspense. The kind of the strange kind of almost muted tones of this film really sort of draw you into this kind of... I guess it's kind of I'm not quite sure where it is, but basically I guess it's some kind of northern town in the States somewhere. Anyway, and the characters as well I think are very good. I mean, Kevin Durand does a good job. He's got a bit of backstory in regards to his one of his sons who has died, and he's basically kind of dealing with the kind of the loss of one of his sons in an accident basically. And we're introduced to a good few other kind of characters, supporting characters. And I have to say they do a good job here of giving a lot of the supporting cast good fleshed out roles and non too cliche roles as well. I have to say I was expecting some certain character deaths, and to be honest with you, I was surprised in regards to who made it out, who didn't basically. So that did a good job of subverting my expectations somewhat, because you do think, this is going to be the typical person who's going to bite it, and you may be surprised. I have to say, there are a couple of issues I have with it, and I'm going to kind of address them now, basically. So, yes, it's not terribly original, like I said. You have seen this kind of movie a good few times before. You've seen it done poorly plenty of times, but like I said, this is actually done well. Now, one thing I will say, and this is going to be maybe a little bit really spoilery, when we do see the creatures, and we don't really get to see them, until right at the end of the film, kind of the last 10, 15 minutes or so, I have to say I was a little bit underwhelmed. I wasn't disappointed, so to speak, just underwhelmed. I didn't think they were quite as good as I was hoping, because the setup for them, we get an idea of an image in your mind, basically, of what you're building these creatures up to. And we're kind of told there may be some kind of We're never getting a definite explanation about what they are, but we're told that they might be some kind of Native American spirit animal or something along the lines of that. So you're building up this image, and you'll see part of the creatures, like their legs and things like that, are just running across the screen. And when we finally get to see them, they use a mix of CGI and kind of practical effects. So if, like, when you see that his foot come down, it will be practical sometimes, things like that. But we do see a few full shots of the creature as CGI, and both the design of the creature and the actual rendering of the CGI parts were just a little bit off for me. I didn't think the designs were terrible, but they were just, I don't know, not quite as imaginative as I was hoping for. And when you're watching this film, because it's so engrossing and it's such a well-told story, and the effects so far, when we do see these kind of flashes and we see the kind of the part of the hooves and things like that when they come down, look so good, you really buy into it. And you kind of see like a shot of a CGI creature, and you kind of almost snap out of it a little bit. Now, you know, I have to say, obviously, that the budget for this film was probably not massive, so you kind of have to, you know, I can almost look past it to a degree, but because the story was so good, I think it just didn't benefit quite from maybe the effects. I don't know. Maybe it would have been better to have a completely practical effect, because that CGI just wasn't working for me 100%. But to be honest with you, that could be classed as really a little bit nitpicky, the pair of them. But overall, this is a definite watch. If you're a creature feature fan, or you like a kind of suspenseful film, I will say there's not a lot of gore in this film. This is not a gory horror film. There's not a huge body count in this movie, so if you want a kind of blood and guts, you know, people getting eaten, I mean, there are a few, but to be honest with you, this is more of an atmospheric piece with a kind of a few deaths here and there. But for the most part, it's a relatively tame in regards to the kind of the gore and the violence and stuff like that. You know, if you can look past those sort of things, I think you'll really enjoy this. This is definitely a good film, and I'd like to see, certainly for more from this, the director and the writers and things like that. And obviously Kevin Durand, I think, does a decent enough job here of showing his kind of leading man chops, so it's nice to see that. And I have to say the whole cast as well were all pretty good here. There wasn't a kind of a bad actor among them. So hats off. I really enjoyed this film. I'm going to give this movie a 8.5 out of 10. Pretty damn good, if you ask me. Go check it out if you haven't seen it. If you have seen it, what do you think of it? Leave me a comment, and I will look forward to seeing you next time. Bye for now.